Hi everybody, this is Rehatch Designs by Tina Williams. Hope everybody's doing well today. I have 3 projects and they are all winter decor or gifts. Project number 1, we are going to be using 2 IOD molds. We'll be using Village Market and Fleur de Lis. And I am casting also the lock and key mold because we'll be using that later on. So what I'm using is fabric cast. It's a 50% part 1, 50% part 2. You mix equal amounts and then you stir it. This is a fast casting resin. And so what that means is within about 10 minutes this will be ready to use or demold. So usually what I do is I put my resin in the largest pieces first. I find that the less resin that I have in my silicone cup, the easier it is to pour. So when I have to go and do the fine, smaller pieces, I usually do that last. I will tell you that the fabric cast resin, it cures very, very fast. So you have to be prepared for that and not make too much up at one time. And know that you need to be prepared to pour it immediately as soon as you mix it. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wait for these to cure. And you'll know it's cured. They turn completely white. And as you can see, I'm pulling the lock and key first because I over poured that. And the resin stays pliable for just a little bit when you pull it out. And that is the easiest time to trim it back if you've over poured. So now we're going to start our project, and I am using some tongue depressors that I bought on, I believe I got these at possibly the dollar store. I did buy some more on Amazon in bulk. It was actually cheaper than buying them at the dollar store as far as quantity. But they're readily available and very, very inexpensive. And so what I'm doing here is I have 7 popsicle sticks going across and then 2 going the other way. And I took some Tite Bond on there and I am basically making a fence panel. So I made a few of those and left them overnight so they're completely dry. Of course, you could hot glue those if you wanted to and be able to use them right away. And so now you can see there's some ends sticking out, and I'm just taking my scissors, and it's very easy to cut those across. They're not very thick. These work really, really great for the project that we're doing because you can use these as standalone decorations, or you can use them as ornaments because they end up being light enough. In any case, what I'm going to be doing first is I am taking the color Everett from Fusion, and it's a kind of a grayish green color. I just wanted a darker kind of grayish, brownish color or greenish color to go over these, and we're going to be just layering paint. So this is the first layer. And I am just using a chip brush to go over this. I'm not trying to be perfect. I'm just trying to cover most of it. And I'm going to do the front and the back. And I'm going to do all 4 of these. We're making 4. And it's just not necessary to do another coat. It's not necessary to be perfect. We're going to do all 4 and then we're going to let them dry and move on to the next step. So now what I'm doing after my little fence panels are dry, I am mixing Paint Couture's Pine Cone. It's a brown color with a little bit of salt wash to get some texture. And I'm not making a lot. I'm making enough to kind of just add some texture over my little fence panels. We're going to be doing kind of a mixed media situation going on here. So there's going to be a lot of texture and layers to these little panels. So what I'm doing is I'm just using my little Cricut tool here, but obviously you can use a little spatula, whatever you have. You could use another tongue depressor, which I do at some point. And I'm just taking this and kind of scraping it on in different spots. I just want a very random amount of this pine cone with the salt wash mixed around it. I definitely don't want to cover it all. And salt wash is an additive that you mix with your paint. Will give it texture, and it works extremely well. I love it. I use it all the time. So now what I'm doing is I'm putting milk paint on with a chip brush. I didn't show you mixing it, but milk paint is a powdered paint, and this is Sweet Pickins milk paint. Window pane is the color, and it is a 50% powdered mix and then 50% water. You mix it and then you put it on, and I'm putting on very, very sparingly, kind of. It's not really a dry brush because I'm adding paint to my brush, but I'm basically skimming over it. I am trying to achieve the look of an old fence, you know, that's been around for a long time and it's been chipping, and when I put too much paint on, I wipe it off, and I know it looks like a hot mess, but trust the process. This is just one of the layers, another one of the layers. So now what I'm doing is I'm going over the castings from the market mold and the fleur-de-lis that we cast earlier with the pine cone color, the same color we used on our little fence panels. And this is the bottom layer. So we're going to go ahead and go over this. We're trying to kind of create a rustic French country look to these with kind of a little farmhouse flair. So they're all going to be similar tones, nothing really bright or different. So we're going to go over all of these and then we're going to let them dry. So after they're completely dry, I am going to go over these, basically skimming the top with that same milk paint, that window pane. And I'm going to leave all the dark areas in the back. I'm trying not to fill those in, and I'm using that same chip brush. I find that a chip brush works really well on this, or possibly like a fan brush. You don't want to be too heavy-handed, or you end up, you know, covering all of your first layer, and you don't want to do that. So I go over all of these with that, and then I let that dry. So this is just a little peat pot that I cut in half They're very easy to cut, and then I covered it with that same window pane. We're going to use that later. And now what I'm doing is I'm taking some vintage photo from Ranger and I'm just putting it down on my parchment paper, and I've also added a little gray ink, and I'm taking my little dauber and I'm mixing it with alcohol, not water. And I'm just taking some gauze that I have that's very white, just plain old gauze, and then some other sackcloth material, and I'm just trying to vintage them up a little bit. And the reason I use alcohol is that makes it a permanent color. It won't come off. And anyway, I just did that so that we're going to be using that in a minute on our project. And here is some corrugated cardboard that I got in some packaging, and I'm just going over that with some of that same window pane paint, just to get it ready to use later in our little mixed media project. And then this is just a regular old brown napkin. I end up not using this, but I do that. I put some white on that, and I'm also just taking some burlap and I'm putting some of that same paint on there. And now what I'm doing is I am taking my apothecary labels and I am stamping some of the labels on this paper. And this is a homemade paper, handmade paper that I bought off of Amazon. I like the texture of it. Obviously, you can use any paper that you have. And I'm mainly doing it for the texture. And I'm just using different labels from that set. It's a wonderful set. Obviously, it has all of the different letters that fit inside the labels. I was originally going to type in French what each animal was, and then I decided not to. I don't know, I just got kind of lazy, but that was my original intent, which of course you could do if you wanted to add that twist to this whole thing. I don't know what happened. It was late at night and I just decided I didn't want to look it up and I didn't want to spell it out. So now what I'm doing is I have the ephemeral stamp. I love this stamp, guys. Oh my gosh, this is a wonderful stamp. It has so many different fonts. I have another whole channel that I do junk journals. I think this would be great for people who do junk journals, people that like to make tags. It has so many different fonts. And what I was showing you there is that you could have typed just some of these French words inside the label. And I did not do that, but I was just showing you could do that. Anyway, I am just stamping all over these little panels with different fonts from this stamp. I had so much fun. And I'm using the gray paint, I forgot what you call it, from IOD, not the black. And just going over it all in different places just to give me a background on all of these. And it's just, I had a lot of fun playing with these. This is a great stamp, guys. It really, really is. You can use it, you know, for big projects all in one piece, or you can take it apart and use it for tags. See, all those little pieces come off individually. Plus, there's such a variety of different stamps in there. Oh, I really love this. So you'll see at the little labels, somehow I lost the footage, but I just kind of tore them out with my hands. I put a little vintage photo around the edges, and then I stamped different French words in the middle. You could use that, get that from your ephemeral stamp and put that on there, or I happen to have a stamp already in my stash that had French words that I have no idea what they say. But I'm going over my different castings and also my fence post with a little bit of extra paint. And I'm just using a little bit lighter color of white. And all I'm using on that is called Champlin. And now what I'm doing is I'm heating up my little rooster or chicken or whatever, just to kind of bend it a little, because I want it to fit on that little uh, uh, peat moss half that I have there. And I needed it to kind of form to it a little bit, so I kind of curved it. If you heat up your casting from resin, you can usually bend it a little, and that's what I did. And then I put my Type Bond Quick and Thick on there, and then I went ahead and put some clamps on there and just kind of let it sit for about an hour while I did some other things. And so after that, all I really did is I started going through the stash of stuff that we had, like all the different papers and the textures and things. And I had gotten out some old book pages that I have. I have a whole channel, another channel that I have over 400 videos that I did junk journals. And so I have a lot of that in my stash. But mainly what I was looking for is different textures and different colors of paper. And I'm going ahead and I'm just adding all the little pieces and little textures and things on here, just to kind of make a little mixed media situation going on here, and adding as much texture as I can. And I just do that on all of the different ornaments. And the way I work is I put them all the way I want them, and then I pull them all off, and hopefully I can remember how I put it. And then I just start gluing everything on. And sometimes things change, sometimes they don't. But anyway, that's the process that I go through. And that's, it's really fun and very enjoyable. And this is very addictive. Once you do a few of these, you'll get hooked, and they go very, very fast, very fast. As long as you don't overthink things, and that's the key. Just don't overthink it. I promise you, whatever you come up with will look wonderful. When I'm doing these, I'm using a combination of my Type Bond and also my glue, my hot glue. You can use whatever glue you would like to use. I like to use a little bit of both on this. You can use whatever kind of glue that you think will work well. This is not a heavy piece, so I don't think you need to really worry too much about anything, construction wise coming off. The only thing I know is on hot glue is that it cannot be permanent after a while. But I use Gorilla Glue, and most of the time I feel like that bonds extremely well. If you notice here, what I did is I crumpled up that label a little bit. I'm trying to add as much texture as I can to this. That is the key to all of it, is texture. and layers, and that's really what makes this look good in the end, is all the different layers, all the different textures. And you really can't appreciate it, I don't think, until you see it in person, and that is when the beauty of it really shows through, is when you can really see all those layers up close. Now here what I'm having to do is I'm going to go ahead and take that peat, the peat planter there, and I'm bending it around the sides, so that gives me something to glue down. And these are very, very lightweight, so they work great for crafts like this. So we're just going to stick that down with some hot glue, and our little rooster has stuck to it just great. And I don't know that I showed you that I did stamp on the front of that also. And then I just add, you know, my little layers on this as I did just like the other ones. I do add a little bit of Spanish moss in there later, and I do put a little glue in there to make it permanent. But anyway, that's pretty much all I do on this one. So after I get that all glued down, I just put some Spanish moss in there. And you know, I did add all of those other pieces that were part of the village market mold, the little wheat pieces and the other whatever flowers they are on there too, just to add more dimension. So I do add more of that to all of these. I'm sure you noticed it as I was doing it. So now I'm getting out my rusty wire. I bought this from Factory Direct Crafts. I think you can get it on Amazon as well. And I'm just cutting some pieces that I'm going to be putting through there. And I punched some holes with my crocodile. It punched very easily. I just did a small hole on each side. And then I'm going to take the end of a paintbrush, and I'm just going to swirl it around there to keep the wire from going through, and also to just have a little decorative edge on there. And that is just one more part of the decoration, is the rusty wire. Of course, you could use twine, you could use whatever you have. So that is all I do to these guys, and I think they turn out fantastic. I love them. I think they're very dimensional and interesting, and would be a wonderful gift. Project number 2. This is using some fence panels that we recently tore down our fence in our backyard and replaced it. And I would not let my husband throw any of those boards away, although he did throw half of them away because he would not let me keep them all. Anyway, what I'm doing is I am gluing these two pieces together because I need a wider piece. And I'm using my Tite Bond glue to put these together. And I am also going to take some popsicle sticks to go crossways across the back to hold these together. This is not a utilitarian piece, so really don't need to worry about, you know, the strength of it. It's just going to be hanging on a wall. But if you were using this as a tray or something, you possibly would want to clamp these down, possibly shoot some nails in there or something, but this is just going to be hanging on a wall. So anyway, I put those on there, and of course I let them dry before we move on to our next step. I do paint them, the popsicle sticks, with the pine cone from Decor, just so later on I'm going to be painting over the back of this, and I like the back of my pieces to look good when I do them. So anyway, that's what I do. So now what I'm doing is I am using the casting from the mold Old Christmas Tree. This is a retired mold from IOD. I do have some on my website, but I did have to purchase them retail, and the price does reflect that, guys. It's not the wholesale price that I would normally be able to get things from. But if you want them, I have them, and I also offer castings if you would like to purchase just the casting, because the price for the actual mold is quite expensive. And now what I'm doing is I have painted over this with several colors, and I have used Fusion Bayberry, Conservatory, and Carriage House. And I'm just kind of mixing the different greens because I want it to look like a tree, a real tree that has different colors. And I'm also going to be mixing some more of that window pane that we used earlier from Sweet Pickins. Again, it's a powdered paint, 50% powder to water. And you're supposed to let it sit for a while. I'm not in this case because I want it kind of watery. And I'm going to lightly go over all of this casting to make it kind of look like snow. That's the kind of look that I'm wanting, a wintry look. And so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going over our fence pieces that we had glued together. And I'm kind of dry brushing this all over. I'm not wanting total coverage, but I do want to change the color. I don't want it to be that dark gray. I'm just adding the white to it. And of course you would do this to taste. I mean, whatever you want to do, you could leave them the color that it is. But anyway, that's what I do, and I also do the back as well. So now I'm going to just be attaching the casting, and I'm heating it up with my heat gun because this is a very thin casting, which is good because it makes it, you know, less heavy, but it is a little bit warped, and when I heat it up with my heat gun, I can kind of flatten it out and even contour it to these boards, because of course they're not perfect either. And of course I'm putting my Titebond glue, and I put way too much glue on there, but I'm going to take it off. But I'm going to make sure that I have plenty of glue on there, and I also use hot glue with this for a temporary bond. And on this piece, when I'm all done with it, I do set something heavy on top of it and let it sit overnight so that it make sure that the Titebond glue bonds perfectly. But I do put some dollops of glue, and partly too is that glue is going to level this out if it's crooked a little bit, because I put the boards together. And there's enough Titebond on there that it'll be a combination of both, really. And trust me, this isn't moving. The next day I came, it's not moving. The boards aren't coming apart, and this isn't moving. So I go back in and I make sure I get any extra glue that seeps out off of here. And then we just kind of move on to the next part, which is kind of going over the back with that same window pane. I put a rusty star on top. Again, I think I might have bought those on Amazon, but I know I got some on Factory Direct. I also got these wonderful little jingle bells, rusty jingle bells there. So I put a little white on there also because I wanted to make it look a little snowy. And now I'm just taking some different fabric strips. Some of these are Jubilee, some are not, some are just some other scraps that I had. I think I bought a roll of Jubilee, a jelly roll. And now what I'm doing is I'm taking some of my rusty wire on my little, I guess it's called a bow dazzler. And you put the one wire across. I like to use wire on my bows because you can tie them tight. And I'm just taking little strips of fabric haphazardly and putting them in there. I'm going to be making a messy bow with this. And so I just put them in, trying to alternate the colors. I do have a little bit of ribbon in there also, a little bit of just some cloth that I ripped up. And you put that in there, and then you take this little thing and you press it down. And then you pull up both pieces, and then you twist it tight. And I twisted a few more times. And then I trimmed off the edges to get them to where I wanted. I had this rusty snowflake, and I was thinking about putting that in front. And I think that would have looked good also. But I decided to go with my original idea of using the little jingle bells. This isn't really supposed to be Christmas so much as just winter. But either way, you could have done both. And now I'm just kind of positioning those bells where I want them, the way I want them, and getting the bow where I want it. And I will just hot glue that on there. And that is it. That is his project. It was super easy, very inexpensive, but I think it turned out to be a great project. So this is project number 3. This is our last project. And again, I am using my old fenced pieces here. You're going to see me use these a lot because I love the patina. I love how this looks. So again, I'm doing the Type Bond thing. This time I put a couple dollops of glue on there, and that's because I want a temporary hold, because I'm actually going to use this pretty quick after I put this together. I let it sit for about a good 45 minutes, but I'm not really waiting as long as I did on the other one, so I wanted to put a little bit of glue in there. And I go ahead and I do that with these other pieces, and of course I used a little hot glue on this one also, just because I knew I wasn't going to be waiting quite as long before I started working with it. And that's just kind of a trick if you're trying to move on to the next, next part of your project and you don't want to wait. Just put a little bit of glue on there and it'll hold it temporarily. And of course I paint the popsicle sticks on the back. You could use like paint sticks or something on this if you wanted something that went all the way across and maybe looked better on the back. In the long run, I don't think you really notice that, and it is the back, but that is an option also. On this one, I go ahead and I start off by painting the whole thing with the window pane milk paint. I mixed up a little bit more. Also, I had some questions on the milk paint. On any milk paint, not just Sweet Pickins, it only lasts for like a couple hours. I, a lot of times, will put it in a cup with the top on it. It'll last a little bit longer. As you can see, I just mixed up some more. So I try to mix small amounts when I'm using it, trying to gauge, how much I'm going to need. And if I have leftover, I'll just go paint something with it rather than waste it. But for the most part, I just mix up very small batches, to not waste any. But it only lasts for a few hours and then it kind of curdles up. I guess like maybe sour milk or something. But as far as the powdered form of it, I think it would last probably forever. Until you mix it with water, it's not really activated. So anyway, I go over the whole thing again, the front and the back and the sides, I really want a lighter background, but I don't want to lose all of that beautiful patina from the wood. So that's kind of what I'm going for. And I do take my heat gun and go over this with my heat gun before it's dry to induce any more crackle. That's one of the reasons you use milk paint, is the look. It will have its own little crackle while it's drying, but if you use a heat gun, what that does is that actually adds more crackle. You will not get nearly as much, if any, on a raw wood, because what happens is the paint absorbs into the wood, so you don't get quite as much. But anyway, it does give it just a different effect than using regular paint. So now what I'm doing is I have my lock and key mold out, and I am going to go over all of these pieces with Dixie Belle bronze, and it's a patina paint. And there's two parts to this. You put the paint down and then you put an activator. And I'm going to coat all of this with the bronze paint and let that dry completely. What you're supposed to do is you put one coat on, let it dry, and then you put another coat on, and while it's wet, you put the activator on there with it, and it creates a patina. I am going to be mixing both the bronze and the copper, and I do this a lot. I put the bronze down first, and then I put the copper on and leave it wet. And the reason I do that is that you can see some of the bronze peeking through, and I love that layered effect of the two of them. Of course, you can just use one. I love this patina paint. I love There are different brands out there that you can get, and I've used them, and they all work very similar. I do think Dixie Belle is a good value for your money on these containers. I've used Modern Masters. It works really well. But in any case, I go over all of it and I let that dry completely, and then I will go over it with the copper. And you definitely don't have to have both. You could just have done the copper, really, and it probably would look very similar. So now I'm going over it with the copper, and as you can tell, I'm actually not covering 100%. I do cover most of it, but the reason I do that is I want some of that bronze peeking through, and I want to have the layered effect of both of them. So now what I'm going to be doing is that is the blue activator liquid. It comes in a spray bottle. I like to pour it in a separate container and just kind of dab it on with a brush. I feel like I have more control as to where it goes. The one thing you definitely do not want to do is you do not want to dip your brush that has the patina paint into your spray, and you definitely don't want to be taking that brush and dipping it into that activator that I have, and then taking that activator and putting it back in the bottle, because what will happen is you will activate the entire spray bottle, and it'll no longer work. So anyway, I put all of that on. I let it set for a few hours, and this is what you get. Isn't that beautiful? But get this, guys, I want you to watch this, because I am going to be heating this up with my heat gun, and as you watch this, it will have parts of the patina will turn a green, this gorgeous green color. Some of it will stay blue. Of course, there is a green activator spray you could add on with it, but this gives it a very natural, really wonderful patina. Just by taking your heat gun and going over it, you can already see some of it, and it will leave some of it blue. It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous, natural, beautiful patina. So now what I'm doing is I'm laying these pieces out on my board to make the kind of the shape of a Christmas tree. I'm sure you guys have probably seen these before. I've never made one, and I always thought they were really wonderful. It's kind of a rustic, elegant look to me. It looks like, you've got these old metal vintage parts. And now what I'm doing is I'm taking some bronze wax by Dixie Belle, and I just have some on my finger, and I'm going over the tops of all of this just to bring out all the beautiful detail and add another metal color to it. The bronze on this is a little bit different color than the bronze metallic, and it's definitely different than the copper, and it will add yet another dimension. You could of course use maybe an antiquing rub and buff or something. I've done that before, and it looks absolutely gorgeous, but it does add another dimension to it. And when you look up close, you can really tell the different layers, and also it just makes it look more like it's real metal. So now what I'm doing is I'm taking my Titebond Quick and Thick, and I am starting to place all these pieces down one by one. And a few of them I have to heat up with my heat gun to kind of get them to lay flat. What will happen on your castings is they sometimes will warp a little bit, and just heat them up with your heat gun and they will become pliable. And then a few times what I did is I put a couple dollops of hot glue so that they would temporarily, bond, because they're warped and you want them to adhere, as quick as possible, because when they dry and they cool off, they will bend back. So you could do that, or maybe use a quick super glue or something like that. But I find a little dollop of hot glue helps. And of course, again, like my boards are not straight, and I've got a seam in the middle, so it's not a perfect situation. But they adhere just fine. And I do put books on this and let it sit overnight. And of course, I'm taking any extra glue out of that and trying to get them in there pretty level. I think in the end I do. But this is a super, super easy project, and I think it turns out wonderful, and this would be a wonderful gift for somebody. This would be a great craft fair thing. Trust me, I have made these before. Not exactly like this one, but a similar type, and they sold really well. This type of thing sells. I don't know why. People like the old vintage look to these things. Anyway, that's it, guys. I hope you like it. I think it turned out beautiful. I love all the patina, and I love it, the metal against the wood. I think it's a beautiful look. If you would like to purchase many of the paint and IOD products that you see here, you can go to rehashdesigns.com. The link is in the description box. Also, guys, I have a giveaway going on for my 6,000 subscribers. All you have to do is be a subscriber and comment on this video, and you will automatically be entered. So if you have not subscribed, subscribe and make a comment, and you will automatically be entered, and I will be doing that giveaway before Christmas. Unfortunately, it is limited to only people in the United States because of the cost of mailing. And if you did get something out of this video, please give me a like and subscribe, share it. It helps my little channel grow, and it allows me to bring future videos to you. And thank you for purchasing on my website, guys. It really does help me. It helps me continue to do videos and to bring content to you. And I hope all of you are having a wonderful season. And I will see you in a few days. I'm putting out extra videos, so make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when I am putting out a video. So everybody take care, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.